All right, all right, all right. Buddha the Basin here. Karen Crow, Louisiana, broadcasting from. Responding to Candace Owens, her hot take on the Nephilim. Gotta give Candace her credit. First off, bringing the people to an awareness about Mount Hermon, this area where, according to the book of Enoch, these fallen angels decided to descend and take them wives from the human, the earth women, finding them comely. This is the Genesis 6 giants, if you will, because their offspring are known as the Nephilim, the giants. Some say the Nephilim is really those who fell, so it's not technically the giants, but it's their fallen angel fathers. Okay. I just want to give some background information because Candace also suggested that Michael defeats Satan, and this is what sets the precursor to the Enoch story. So Satan is banished. Um, it's an interesting sort of Catholic take, obviously. My inclination is to bring in Islam because Islam says those of you who recognize the angels Michael and Gabriel, well, we're all on the same team. That Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they all recognize Michael and Gabriel. You can probably add Raphael if you like to, or Uriel, the big four archangels. Gabriel obviously reveals the Quran to Muhammad, and he protects Jesus. He sees Mary, tells Mary, "Thou art worthy." Um, Michael, the avenging archangel, is mentioned in the Quran. He's not really discussed in any great sense, but the idea being, yes, Michael is with Allah. Michael is with our Team Elohim. Okay, remember, Elohim is a plurality. So this is one thing that Candace will have to acknowledge at some point. There's no Trinitarian basis in the Bible. Let us make man in our image is not a trifold unity speaking to itself. It's not like the Knights of Ni, like three heads on one body. That's ridiculous. No, it's a group of beings. One of them is Yahweh of the Elohim. Now, the Anunnaki version gives you Enlil and Anki as the primary two brothers. One has a rank slightly higher than the other. Enlil is 50, Lord of the Air. Satan, Prince of the Air. Anki, 40, the waters. Okay, being reborn from the waters. Say the Noah with the from the waters. That's Anki. These are two brothers. It's a whole different version of one brother trying to help mankind achieve our full genetic potential, seeing that we were made of 24 elder races, the genetics of these superior intergalactic races. This is the real truth. It's not, we didn't come from monkeys. We were seeded in the original plan is just to leave us alone and see what develops, come back later. But in that intervening moment arrived the Anunnaki. Our whole solar system is being colonized. Mars is colonized. Venus is colonized. Venus has a much more peaceful existence, and the beings from that planet graduate to the next octaves of consciousness, and they're known as Ra. We got some called the Hathor. They come back. Then we have Valiant Thor from Venus in the 50s. Another thing that Candace doesn't really look at is this 1940s, 1950 UFO literature. Valiant Thor comes to the Pentagon and works for the United States government. There's pictures of this man because these beings from Venus look just like us. The beings from Alpha Centauri look just like us. There's human beings all throughout this galaxy and beyond. They're also the little gray alien beings. Those are the ones that meet with Eisenhower. And he says, and he's not so sure, but the Majestic 12 goes, Vannevar Bush, go behind his back and make the deal with the gray aliens. Then come the abduction. You see, that sounds crazy to a lot of Bible thumpers. But then the Bible sounds just as crazy to the extraterrestrial crowd. The fact is, they are both true. The Bible is based in the Sumerian literature going back to the flood. If you don't understand that the Atrahasis story predates the Bible, that Atrahasis is Noah. His name is also Utnapishtim in the same Gilgamesh story that Candace Owens talked about. Gilgamesh has to go find Utnapishtim. He has to journey. Utnapishtim is from a previous epic. He's Noah. He's saved by Anki. Anki's told he goes before the council and Enlil's like, we're going to flood mankind. We're going to kill them all. And you can't help him. You can't speak to him at all. You can't speak to him directly. So he speaks to him through a reed wall, just like he speaks to him through a burning bush in the Bible, because the extraterrestrials are told they can't really intervene so much, especially when you have a jealous God. He's Enlil. He likes the sacrifice. He likes the pleasing aromas. He's your Old Testament vengeful deity who comes and tells Joshua, kill them all. Tell Saul to kill them all. And when Saul doesn't kill all the Amalekites, Saul has to go, and Samuel chops off the king's head, and Saul begins going crazy as he sees what did I do wrong? The answer is nothing. Even Moses died unhappily. I mean, they make his brother is told to go up to the mountain and die. Then Moses has to go up to the mountain and die. You can look the promised land. You're not going to get there because you struck the stone, and water came out of the stone. Isn't that what you wanted? You gave him a stick to strike a stone. The water came out. Weren't you pleased with that? I mean, you could argue, oh, well, he murdered somebody. Well, yeah, he did murder somebody, but that's not why you didn't bring him to the promised land. So this Old Testament father needs to be scrutinized, because spare not the women and children, kill them all. It was not human what he was advocating. These were anti-human practices, because for millennia they had spared the wives and children, even spared the king, like it or not. And you can make a deal, take some of us, share the wealth, and the soldiers died, but they've agreed to that. They're soldiers, So going back to the Nephilim in Genesis 6 in the book of Enoch, which is taken out the Bible, but the Ethiopians kept the book of Enoch in the Bible. Enoch is taken, yes, he's taken by Anki. That's the individual who takes him. You see, they were a spacefaring, space colonizing group, the Anunnaki, the Anak, if you will. But they weren't the only group that was doing this. The Earth became a battleground. It certainly is later as the Greys. It was also the reptilian race. You see, Candace is so close, because the truth is, it's a hybrid reptilian human race. That's what Enlil was, a hybrid human reptilian. Half reptilian from his mother and half human from his father. Anu from the Mesopotamian text of the Anunnaki. Okay, Anu's two sons. Anu's kind of conned into making a marriage. It's a wonderful story. I must say, it's a better story than what we get in the Bible. I also must say that Anu. This is Elena Danan's material juxtaposed, meshed with what we already know. So it's very important to keep this in mind as we move forward. So the raw material also says that Anki, who is Yahweh, tries again to make man superior. So what the raw material claims is these giants, they do go astray, but the goal was to make a superior form of humankind. Like these fallen angels who will go down to Mount Hermon might not have been so evil after all. That's the raw materials take, the law of one material. If you've ever looked into it, Ra is a group from Venus. They create the pyramid out of thought. Out of thought, the pyramid is like the stones are just meshed together because it was one big thought, communicating with the rockness, if you will, the consciousness of rock, to just create this perfect pyramid. That's what the raw material claims. I mean, it wasn't built stone by stone. The stones weren't laid upon each other like that. It was thought, which is just amazing. Anyway, the raw material suggests that these guys were trying to do something good, trying to uplift humanity. However, humanity was tempted by power on this planet. That's what the dark side truly represents to this day, the temptation by power, the temptation to close the heart chakra, the fourth chakra point, the central green chakra that closes you off to the green ray, the very center of the color spectrum, the color green, the color of life, right? So you power through with the lower chakras, red, orange, and yellow, by completely disempowering another human, making yourself as a god and them as a slave. So that's what you see in all the Epstein files. It's not even the biggest secret if you want to refer back to David Icke. And that's what Ike said, that they were reptilian shapeshifters, because they are a hybrid race that goes back to the Sumerians, just not to Anki. It's back to Enlil, who is known as you, Y-U. So he's your real Satan figure, and his son Ninurta gets involved. If you think of the Old Testament and you think of Lot and Lot's wife, that's nuclear. It's nukes being used. It's very important that you keep in mind that Moses' beard is turned white and gray because of the exhaustiveness of this ship. These guys have technology. We need to let go of them being God. Okay, it's gods in the plural, and it's not even gods, it's just powerful ones. The Elohim means the powerful ones, and Yahweh was among them. He was Yahweh of the Elohim. But remember what Moses says right before he dies, that we belong. Jacob is Yahweh's portion. That we will call him Anu, but the Lord, if you will, not Yahweh, the Elyon, I think at that point, the Most High, he gave Yahweh Jacob. We're in his inheritance, meaning other Elohim, or Anunnaki, if you prefer, were custodians of different human races, like perhaps Egypt and India would be two examples. Because in India, you have Brahman and Saraya, which is Abraham and Sarah. They were trying to create continuity. That's why Jesus goes to Egypt. That's why he comes 500 years after Buddha, and 500 years after him is Muhammad. We're meant to connect these. Our extraterrestrial forefathers intended this to be a message to humanity. Okay, these avatar beings were supposed to incarnate and pour out their message of love. Okay, and they've been separated one from each other. We've severed Buddha from Christ, even though he goes to India. Some say he dies in Kashmir. I mean, there's a shrine to him. There are people who claim to be his descendants. We're never going to hear them out. They could have been all killed by now in Kashmir. Let me not get negative. The point is, Jesus is important to India. He's important to the Hindu culture and the Buddhist culture. Even the Tibetans believe he went all the way to Tibet. Okay, this was all during those missing years of his life, 13 to 30. And then the other bit is he might have gone after the crucifixion and gone to India, gone to Kashmir. And of course, Thomas goes to India. So we get gives us this wonderful Gospel of Thomas, and we get the infancy Gospel of Thomas. And if you combine that with the Talmud of Emmanuel that's found under the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, you'll really get the big picture about Jesus, number one, being Emmanuel, fulfilling Isaiah's prophecy. Number two, having the power to bless and curse from an early age. He already knew the alphabet. He knew the Aleph. He knew why it was the shape that the Aleph was in. When the teacher says, make me an A, Jesus is like, well, can you tell me why it's shaped this way, bro? And he can't. So the teacher's like, well, who the hell are you? And whips him. So Emmanuel, Jesus, curses the teacher. His arm withers off. He's able to bless and curse from a young age. His swaddling clothes, everything that touched his body can heal. But if he curses you, you die right on the spot. This is in the Quranic literature. It's in the Quran too. He used to make birds out of clay, and they would come to life by Allah's permission. Now that's not in the Bible, but it's in the infancy Gospel of Thomas that he's making these streams and these pigeons on. Maybe it's sparrows, because he loved the sparrows. He's making these sparrows. It's the Sabbath, and the little kid tells him, because you can't do anything. So Jesus curses the kid, and the kid withers up and dies right there. And the town's like, well, hey, well, that's not right. But when they speak out, whatever, everything, they're scared to speak out too. And so it's no wonder later on everybody comes right to Jesus when he comes, because they know who this guy was from when he was a kid. See, we get the story, we get birth, we get the gifts of the Magi, then we get Egypt, he has to escape, and then we get he's back at 12 in the temple. But if you understood he was there from ages 3, they tried to put him in school at 5, he couldn't, Joseph has to take him to work, he's fixing things for Joseph, he's helping his stepfather, the carpenter. He's learned everything by 12. We get that, so he goes off to India. So our understanding of Jesus is horribly incomplete. We've made him a son of God. He was a son of Gabriel, not a son of God. He never claimed that. He was the Messiah, which Islam the Quran says, yes, he was the virgin-born Messiah, but not the son of God. And God is not a Trinity. Those things are illogical. God just can't have a son. Now, an extraterrestrial being can have a son. Sure, that's what Genesis 6 is all about. They saw the women were comely and beget a race of giants. And of course, Moses and the Israelites are used to kill them, right? That's the Anakim. They're scared. We're like grasshoppers to them, the sons of Anak. Well, that's the whole bit. The Enlil uses the Israelites to become murderers to take out his own brother's seed. That's why later on Jesus has to come back. Some of the prophets usually go back to Anki, the good guy. Okay, but he's not God either. He was just an Elohim who helped us. And his son also seems to rebel. That's the Lucifer figure. His son is, oh gosh, it's escaped me. May as well call him Baal. It's probably what he ends up going by. Marduk. Marduk is his son. Marduk is the one in the Babylonian. See, we can't just give Babylon on its whole a bad name. It's when Marduk takes over and he has the Babylonian priest rewrite the book where Marduk defeats Tiamat. Marduk does everything. He takes his father in Enlil's place. He kind of tries to overstep his own father. He rebels and puts himself as God on earth. That's your evil. That's your figure but that leads to a war. It just leads to trouble. That's just one story. The flood story is at the end of the Atlantis bit too. You can bring, that's the beauty of this. You can bring your Atlantis back in and your Noah story, and you have an evil figure doing it and a good figure saving. Enlil is the evil figure trying to end the human race. Anki is trying to save a seed, a remnant, which you get all through the Bible. There will be a remnant that's saved. The seed will be saved, because he understood that we were seeded by some other higher group than the Anunnaki. He was trying to preserve the seed. He understood what the real creator's mission was, through spreading a seed, spreading consciousness throughout the galaxy. That's the real mission here, and it's much more of an experiment, but it's about respect. You respect life. I mean, that's something that evil does not do. They don't respect life. They only see themselves as gods. But again, the Genesis 6 giants are a bad reaction, but not a bad idea. Just improperly carried out. Everything that most of what the good extraterrestrials have tried to do on this planet has not worked out. Like the Aztec culture, obviously, was not what the intention was. To build these pyramids, the goal wasn't for them to be places of human sacrifice. The pyramids in Egypt were not meant to be temple complexes to the elite. But that's what happened to all this. Same with the Jewish religion. My house was not meant to be, or my father's house was not meant to be, a den of thieves. You see, but we pervert everything and invert because the people that decide to stay on this planet and suck it dry are of a lower vibration. They're slightly more intelligent than us, but they can't really go much beyond where they are now, and they're just feeding off us. That's the parasitical energy of this planet. That's that reptilian dark energy that keeps us in a low vibration. They want us dumbed down so they can continue feeding off of us. They feed off of our loosh. That's our bioplasma, our chi, our prana. All that is very real. So the yoga and the qigong practices are all real powerful, because the 7 chakra system is completely real. The 7 rays of light and music and the octave, it all passes through you. It is you. The kingdom is within you and without you. Rather, it is you. So in the last analysis, the real eye-opening information is the Atrahasis myth. That's what people need to study, because they'll get Enlil and Anki. They'll get that there was always a divine council of the Anunnaki, and that Anki ends up saving Noah or his son Atrahasis or Utnapishtim just the same. He saves them. And they end up in Turkey, which is what Matt LaCroix has discovered, and from Turkey. And Gilgamesh later probably tries to travel there to see him. I don't have a negative view of Gilgamesh. Candace Owens is making Gilgamesh evil, and that's not the bit I get. We're not even sure if Nimrod is evil. That's the most controversial thing. We assume that the Father, if we call him the Father, that the God of the Old Testament is right for flooding the planet, that somehow we deserved it. We're the bad ones. We deserve this. The Israelites deserved it. They didn't deserve to get stoned and have snakes rain upon them. That's what Jesus tried to tell them. What good father would give you stones for bread? And then what good father would send you snakes? So snakes for food, stones for bread. He was trying to say that guy wasn't your ally. He tricked you. You've been Stockholm syndromed. And that's what happens. That's the modern state of Israel. If you don't kill all the Amalekites, if you don't kill all the Iranians, if you don't kill all the people, the Palestinians, then you won't please God. But that's a tyrannical murderer. That's not the real God. But that was a real individual who did demand these things in the Old Testament time. But that's before the New Testament. That's why it's not Islam, it's not Buddhism, it's not Christianity. It has to be remolded and refounded. It is Judaism. Their belief in some new Messiah coming is completely it's wrong-headed, unfounded. We've already had Emmanuel and Mohammed, and that's it. That's really the end of the story. We unite now. We embrace reincarnation. We see that we're all one telepathically. We use this internet to be a metaphor for how we interconnect. We don't actually choose this technological graphene oxide base of connecting us and being controlled by an AI overlord. We say no to that, but it awakens us in a way. It's a powerful metaphor for how things operate. But we have a real underground Wi-Fi, the actual planet, the living biosphere, the noosphere, if you will, the living chi field of all that runs along the ley line. Sure, all that's very real. The field is looking to energize you if you receive the free electrons, if you receive this stream of energy and you keep the yin yang in balance, if you will, which is really the positrons and the electrons. You keep that in balance with your consciousness, you'll begin to draw and create the protons will come, the fire and the chi, the energy will come up the spine, awakening up the 33 vertebrae. That's the real meaning of the 33. It's the crystal palace of the pineal and the pituitary gland. And as it comes, so will the cerebral spinal fluid, and it's going to be charged with your own consciousness and your own awareness, and do the iron, the ferritin seals along your spine open. Those are your chakras. They are electromagnetically sealed, and they open with your own conscious intent to let go of fear and embrace love. Om Shanti Om.